Hello Brawlhalla fans, it's Raidhyn and welcome to my guide for the axe. Now this guide is going to cover all of the axe's normal moves, and since Teros is the only current axe character, we'll also be looking at his signature moves. Now the axe is a pretty interesting weapon because right now we don't have a really good way to gauge its full potential because of Teros' slow attack speed. However, it does have some very useful tools, and a lot of people have been talking about how the axe is either giving them problems for learning it or giving them problems when they fight against it. So let's go ahead and go over all of the moves and kind of when they're useful. So let's start off with the quick moves on the ground. The first is the neutral quick, which just looks like this. It's a two-hitting high damage move, and it doesn't come out as quickly as the forward quick, which is this move, which is actually the move you want to select if you are trying to respond quickly. But what is interesting about this is that if you notice the yellow hitboxes, is that it will hit characters who are trying to jump in on you and can occasionally punish mistimed dive kicks. So if you time it really well, this does do a lot of damage, and as you can see, has a good amount of force. Now, unlike most other move sets, you don't want to select this move when you're looking for something quick. When you need a quick response on the ground, the best move is the one we'll cover next, which is this forward quick or side quick. So this hits really quickly. As you can see, there is a little bit of overhead hitbox, but it's mainly for hitting people in front of you as quickly as possible. You can see if the opponent is right on top of you, it will miss, which limits the use somewhat, as opposed to the standing quick, which will hit characters whose hitboxes are stacked at least somewhat close to you. But this is the fastest axe move on the ground. So if you need a quick move to punish something, it does have a decent amount of reach. You can see that it goes, a few character distances. And this is the move that I end up using when I need to punish something really quickly, like a dive kick, for example, during the recovery frames. So that's the forward quick. Now the next move we're going to look at is the down quick, which is this one right here. As you can see, it has a magnificent amount of force, and it has this nice upward hitting hitbox. Now what's cool about this is that this is actually the best way to launch people in the game. Now one of the current problems with it, or not in the game, but with the axe, one of the current problems with it is that it doesn't always hit characters that you're stacked on. They do need to be somewhat in front of you, but it will hit on most stacked situations. You can see if you're just slightly behind the other guy, where they're just slightly in front of you, it will connect. And what's nice about this is that at later force you can actually follow this up with air neutrals and even a recovery move, which we'll get to in a moment. So just know that this is also pretty good for punishing jump-ins and for people who are trying to air dodge through you. It doesn't have the most generous of hitboxes, but you can see it does cover a pretty good vertical area. Alright, so next let's talk about the air set. So the air tilt is the first one. It's kind of reminiscent of the hammer swing, but it comes out a bit faster. Not quite as much reach. It only does 16.5 points of damage, which is pretty standard for air neutrals, or for air tilts rather. And what's nice about this though is that at later damage levels, we'll get her down to orange, is that it has a nice amount of force to it. So this move, it comes out pretty quick. It doesn't have the most priority in the game, but it is a useful tool. And there are actually some combinations for using it where you can, smack someone up and then jump up immediately for an air tilt, which ends up being pretty useful. So the air tilt is part of, it's an important part of Teros' repertoire. However, my favorite move for him in the air is the air neutral. And the reason for this is because of the amount of damage that it does in comparison to his other moves. So if we launch Ada up, we can see that air neutral does quite a bit of damage in comparison to the air tilt, and it will hit basically anything that is directly above or directly above Teros. So this move actually has a decent amount of priority, unlike some of the other axe moves, and it also has a really good amount of force as well. So if you can work in, let's launch 8 up. If you can work in this air neutral, you can actually do multiple juggles with it if people don't dodge through, resulting in a lot of damage really quickly. So definitely try to incorporate this into your gameplay. The next one we're going to look at is the air down light. And this seems to be everybody's favorite move because what it does is it will hit grounded opponents if you do it immediately after jumping, which is really useful. It also has good force and pretty decent priority as well. Priority on moves is something that the axe doesn't have a lot of, which is why you'll see a lot of players doing this. Now, the reason I prefer the air neutral to it is because it does a lot more damage, but when in doubt, you can throw this move out and you can get some good results with it. You can see it's pretty much effective regardless of where you're positioned next to the character because it hits in front of and behind Teros. So this move is really effective when close to the ground. So the last move that we'll look at is the axe recovery move. Now, this move has a great amount of force and also swings in an arc around Teros, which means that occasionally you can get some pretty cool looking knockouts from it. The challenge with it is that it doesn't really have a lot of priority. It's gonna lose if they attack you back. You're gonna lose. So it's really good if you can catch people unaware with it. It's also fun in these edge guard situations where you can kind of jump out and then come around. It also has a good corner hitbox, as you can see, like it'll hit people standing on the corner here, which is pretty cool. So the move is great if you can get it to land. It has a huge amount of force, but pretty low priority. So you just want to keep that in mind when using it. It will get beat quite a lot by other moves. So let's go ahead and look at the down heavy. The down heavy is a pretty unique move and doesn't work quite like other down heavies. Now, if you hold the button down while charging it, you'll see that Teros gets this nice little tiny hitbox below his feet. This is basically also collision detection. As soon as this collides with something, the rest of the animation will complete if you continue to hold down the button. Now, if everything hits, it does a good amount of damage, but the move in general is pretty awkward to use. It's still kind of being worked into the gameplay. I haven't seen a lot of people use it effectively, but what's interesting about it is that basically as soon as you let up on the button, the spin animation will start. It is pretty easy to dodge through, so you're not gonna be punishing a lot of dodges with this, but just know that it doesn't work quite the same as other heavy moves from other weapons. So that's it for the basic axe moveset. Let's quickly go on and look at Teros' signature moves, just because he's the only axe character right now, so if you are interested in the axe, it's likely that you're playing Teros. So Teros' standing neutral looks like this. It's a two-hitting, a high force, high damage kind of scoop and slam, and this is actually pretty decent for catching people in dive kicks. The problem is you just have to have really good read times. It's also pretty good for just picking up people if you want a quick punish. It comes out pretty quick. It's not as fast as this, of course. There is quite a bit more delay than that, but it comes out not too shabby. Now, the next one that we just saw here is the forward signature, and this is actually pretty cool because it covers quite a bit of distance. So when you're on the ground, your opponent kind of has to respect how much ground you can cover with this move. The challenge with it, much like all of Teros' signature moves, is that there's quite a bit of wind-up time. So you can see with every one of his moves, because of his attack speed, they do come out a little bit slow. Now this move starts slower than this one, so if you need a quick response, use your standing signature. If you need to cover some distance, the forward heavy works out really well. Let's go ahead and look at his down heavy. This move is really interesting. Now you can see from this hitbox that it pretty much covers all of Teros and has a pretty generous hit range as well. So this will hit above, behind, and in front of him, and is great for early damage knockouts. Let's see if we can't put some damage down on Ada and get her into orange. Alright, so Ada's in orange. We're going to do this at quick release, and we can see just how much force this move has. So this move is really good for punishing people who are trying to dodge through you and the rest of it. Now, if you're stacked up on a character, it also will hit. So this move is pretty much one of the safest options for Teros. If you're not sure which signature move to select, this is usually a solid choice. Now, it is punishable, just like all of his other signature moves, but it has the best force out of the three and is just really awesome. So do try to incorporate this into your gameplay. I hope that you guys found this somewhat useful. I know this is a very baseline video. Some of the combos that are possible with the axe are pretty basic, kind of like your other... if you play Spear, for example, a lot of the motions and the movements are pretty much the same. There's still a lot of struggles right now with the priority on the axe, but if you can use it effectively, at least right now, Teros is a very high-risk, high-reward character, and the axe is really fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out with future characters who are using the axe, what it's going to look like on somebody with more move speed, and how that is going to impact the rest of the game and just make it more fun and awesome. But for now, I'm going to head out. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I will see you next time for more Brawlhalla.